Yo guys, this is TheLQ-Gaming, and today's video I'm going to be looking at a case study for DC Universe Online on the Solo Instance Temples of Power Source. This is, in my view, one of the best solo instances in the entire game. It came with Wonderverse, which was an episode released in the middle of last year, and for various reasons I think it is a brilliant solo. And I think that there's some things about this solo that I would like to see implemented in future content that would make it a lot more beneficial to the community as a whole, for various reasons. So let's look into that now. For starters, you can farm nectars from this. So as you can see in my inventory, I have yellow nectars and red nectars. You can put these into the amphora of the gods, which you get when you first run the solo, and then when you fill that up you get different sodas, consumables that you can then use in Wonderverse content only. But if you're running current episode content and you queued in, and while you were queuing in you were stood in Patchwork Themyscira, you could use this consumable to get your buff from the red soda. And if you have the yellow soda you get supercharged full as well, so that also helps. And it's also stacked with other consumables, so like seasonal consumables and the compounder maker as well. So it's well worth running this solo. There's plenty of feats with it as well. So if I go to Wonderverse, there was plenty of feats I could work on. So yeah, the School of Hard Knocks, so yeah, those sort of feats. You had all the crystal feats as well, the brick feats. If I can scroll down, so you had to run each solo a bunch of times to get the different bricks, and then you had a feat for completing all of those as well, so you always had to keep running the solo. There was always something to do. I found it a lot of fun doing this. But more to the point, and why I'm doing a video on it, every run of the solo feels quite different. So I'm going to start this solo. This is the yellow one. Each of the variants of this solo have different ads. The yellow one has sort of Atlantic theme ads. The green version has sort of minotaurs and other Greek mythological sort of creatures. The red version has apocalyptian sort of parademon sort of type ads, and then the blue one has Olympian ads. So in this one there's the school, we got Silent School Guy. They all have slightly different mechanics going on for the most part. A few things are similar. They have different weapons. So you're always drawing sort of attack that you don't want to be stood in. And then he summons this, which looks a lot like the Source Storm that you get in Patchwork Themyscira with the fight with Zeus. And you'll summon more of these. Again, this could be scaled up quite a bit. So this Minotaur, different sub-boss. So this is the Striker. Again, he does that attack. He does a Striker attack. Again, that mechanic can definitely be built upon for a raid. And we have Grail at the end here. So Grail always has to start attacks. In this version of the solo, she has damage check. She doesn't have the orbitals, but she does have the damage check. And that's what she uses in the raid. So you already have practice for the damage check here. Obviously the damage check in the raid is significantly hard to finish. And then we have Grail. So it's the same NPC. Doing this. She does the star slam, and then she throws her staff. Now we have Grail again, same last boss, same NPC, but she does different parts of the mechanics in the raid. Trying to get to her skull. So she does that knockback. You can do a lot of damage if you're close to her. She does this in the raid. It's pretty avoidable. And last boss is Grail once again. This Grail has a little bit more going on. These red AoEs. So obviously you don't want to be stuck in that. It does draw you in. It can be tricky with the hammers in the raid, because it might ping pong you around the room. You don't want to be under those or near those for too long. Again, it's drawing me in. Yes, so you have 4 different versions of Grail, and with different parts of the mechanics from the raid, and they've been planted in different variants of her boss fights in these temples. Why do I think this is relevant to the game right now? Because these sorts of solos, they are teaching you the mechanics that you will need to pay attention to in the raid and the elite raid. And this is something we don't really have a lot in content at the moment. We have this is a great way of kind of progression for players. If you're progressing through the episodes, this is a brilliant way of doing it. You have the mechanics kind of sort of placed in the solos, but not overwhelming or overlapping. You learn those mechanics, then you get to the raid, and then you have them all at once. But you know what you're doing because you've done the solo. So this, I think, would be really good for the game going forward, to help players sort of learn mechanics easier, but also to keep the design of the raid content a lot more interesting. Because if you have all this at once, then yes, it might seem hard, but you've had the pace, you've had the time to learn it to do the solo content. And it's a great way to progress through the content. This is probably my favourite solo instance content in the game. You've got walk-ins, you've got different versions of it, and I feel like I'm progressing through the episode through doing these solos, because I'm learning mechanics for stuff that I'm gonna need later. I'm getting the consumables. Let me have a look. So I'm getting the consumables that will come in handy for me in the raid. And I've got the stuff to do with the farm feats as well. It's a really nice solo, very underrated. I'd like to see more of this going forward in DC Universe Online in the future episodes. You have that kind of, you always have something to do in the solo. You always have a consumable to get that's going to give you some help. You know, stuff to do and little tasks to do in the solo. And then you have bosses where you're going to learn different mechanics that will come useful for when you do the raids. And when they're all together, yes, it will seem tricky at first, but you'll learn from doing the solo, okay, that's what that does. I shouldn't stand there, or I shouldn't go too close to that. Okay, she's teleported here and done the staff slam at me. I need to move out of the way of that. And then she throws her staff. I lunged that, because I've learned that from doing the solo. Or, oh, this is the damage check, so I need to pass the damage check. Now, of course, in the raids, that's a lot more difficult. You need really, really high damage in that timer to pass those damage checks. But again, you've already kind of know what you're meant to do from doing the solo. Yeah, I just think this is a really great thing. I found the progression of this episode really nice. The bounties were a bit over the top, yes, but this is a really positive step forward for the game, and this is something I'd like to see return in future content. Hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you did, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. As ever, I will see you in game. Stay tuned for later this week. I'm going to be covering the new Ratchet & Clank game, Rift Apart. I'm now on PlayStation 5. So look forward to seeing that as well. There'll be other games I'll be covering later in the year as well. But of course you'll see me in DC Universe Online as well. So stay tuned and take care. Goodbye.